This was not my dream at all. But I love it. It's like, I've fallen in the briar patch because the people.
Before we get started with the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Global Training Center. As trade compliance professionals, you want to make sure that your procedures and documentation are completed as correctly as possible to avoid any delays and possible fines. We provide a range of trade compliance courses that will fit your needs. From in-person or web training to recorded on-demand courses, we can train one or even thousands on your team through your learning platform or on our portal. We can even customize a private session for your team. Go to globaltrainingcenter.com to find out more.
Hey, folks, we're in for another great session for Simply Trade. We love this show. We love you. And thank you so much for your listenership. I'm really excited about talking about today. Folks, we are going to get to talk about a trade association. And Lalo and I are really big on trying to explain a few things and talk about, something that hopefully will mean something to you. This trade association is probably the largest import-export compliance-related trade association in the world. Second, it is one that I've had the great privilege of being able to attend the first conference as an attendee, and the friends and the colleagues that I've gotten to meet, Lalo, over the years has been astronomically fantastic. I don't know if I'm sure you're kind of in the same boat.
No, I am. Yeah, I think I've been to about 80% of their conferences, and have grown. I used to do a regular session for 2 or 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years on Mexico back in the day when I was practicing more of on selling Mexican custom software. I remember we used to do. I was a regular doing that, and I did a few on back then NAFTA, which is now USMCA. But yeah, and I got introduced to a whole bunch of people, and still my friends now. I mean, well, you, Andy, I literally met you at an ICPA conference, and
sure did.
It's the first time, and that I met you, and of course all the great people there that I've met and continue to be, just. More than colleagues. I mean, gosh, it's just, I can reach out and talk to him about different things and, and not, just shoot the breeze about anything, not having to do with trade even.
Well, the one thing is, folks, we're going to be talking about the International Compliance Professionals Association, or ICPA, Ann Lister and Linda, what is Linda's last name? Westerfield. Yes, we're the original founders. It started out as just kind of trying to keep people up to date on things in the industry. It has morphed into the largest trade association in regards to compliance, import-export compliance in the world. It is a global organization. There are membership from all over the world. But I got to say, and it's been absolutely fantastic. We've got Elisabeth Sherrell, who is on. She is. I'll let you give your own titles. I don't know. It's all changed or something.
It changes all the time. I do. My title changes all the time. I think for the last few years, I've been the director of member engagement. I think in 2024, we're going to add events to that because that's truly my focus and my passion is customer service and meetings and events. And so as I've finished now my schooling, as I'm coming to the end of it, and I think that it makes the most sense for me in this organization because I can't ever be what my mom was or is. There, it's just I've never been immersed in trade, but I know enough about the people, and I've literally grown up with them. I mean, Andy's known me since I was in my 20s, and I was at that first conference too in San Diego down on the pier. We had so much fun. I had no idea that these people could be so fun. Andy, I don't know if you were on that when we were going out to the whale watching and Michelle Schultz was up there doing the tour guide stuff. I'll never forget that as long as I live, and she looks the same 20 years later. I think we've all gotten older. I tell
you, Michelle Schultz is one of those rare folks that is just so fantastic. She is such a pleasure to be around, but you're right. She is, Michelle, it's like you just such a sweet, person that is, listen, when it comes to the attorney stuff now, she can be dogmatic. So that's the one thing is like, she lures you in with kindness and then, takes you down on the mat. So
she knows her stuff. Yeah. She sure does.
Well, listen, just for our listeners, though, you made reference to your mother. Is that Ann Lister is Elisabeth Sherrell's mother. So if you didn't catch that, and Elisabeth is taking on the legacy here a little bit of helping out with coordinating the conferences, which is a huge ordeal. There are conferences held all over the world. Before we go too much further, though, I want to stop for a minute. And I know kind of along the lines that I had waited late in life to finish out my degree. So I actually went back to school and graduated in 2016. And I will say, I think you were part of the group that in that board of directors meeting at the time I was on of ICPA, y'all cart in this cake, this graduation cake.
Yes, I remember.
And to celebrate my degree and all that. But the reason I'm just saying that's not so much for myself. It was just, hopefully it was, as you said, you were somewhat inspired. You went back to school yourself, finished up your own degree. And I'm looking at, for those, please, at some point, you're going to look at this on video. In behind Elisabeth, I'm telling you what, I'm proud as a peacock strutting through the barnyard right now, because you have got yourself not only a bachelor's, but you've got a master's too. I understand, right?
I think that it's important that our audience knows that we probably had the same motivator. I think my mom also pushed you many years towards finishing your degree. She did me as well. She's a big fan of degrees. And so, yes, I did the same thing late in life, my 40s. I started with my associate's degree because I've been doing that for about 10 years. And then I did my bachelor's degree. And yes, I am in my last semester of my master's in consumer experiences. In the meantime, just because my mom likes to throw education at me, I also got a certification as a nonprofit. I think it's from Harvard, which is her favorite thing to tell people about. But it's just a certification, but it's for nonprofit management, but mostly focused on marketing, not so much the business side of things, but for sure the marketing and the consumer aspect. Like I said to you guys before we started recording, it's all about the people for me and for ICPA. So that's important, I think, to the heart of what we do.
Well, with that, and I know there's others probably that have already said it because you've done so well, but I mean, I want to say congratulations on behalf of Lalo, myself, as well as the ICPA membership and others. That it was like, you know what, Elisabeth, way to go! I am so proud of you. So
thank
I know
you.
It was
well,
tough.
You're like your family. It's funny Lalo said that about colleagues and stuff, but yeah, I mean, Andy is there's a family here too. That when my mom and Linda told me, I was 19 years old, I think, and they said, we're going to start an association. I was like, great. Okay, Mom, now I need to borrow $20. I mean, like that's what I remember, right? Like I'm 19, I'm on a wayward path, and I would have never thought this was not my dream at all. But I love it. It's like, I've fallen in the briar patch because the people, I was telling you before that sitting at the table, talking to people across the world, literally. I mean, I was in Amsterdam this year talking to trade compliance professionals who feel the exact same way as the ones in Canada, as the ones in the United States. The common thread is that the weight of the world is on their shoulders, right? Because they're responsible for getting it right. If they get it wrong, it's their license on the line. If they're licensed, or they're the one that's going to be questioned by the government. But the companies have a hard time seeing their value, I think. Like they don't really know what they do over there. They're like, those people in that office, we don't really know what they do. Meanwhile, it's kind of like an insurance policy, right? Until you need it, you just hope that it operates. And so I've just really enjoyed getting to know the heart of these people and understanding that ICPA can connect them with someone with the same struggles. We can offer the resources through the library that you need to possibly solve your problem. And again, like I mentioned, we're not selling anything. We're not lobbying. That's not our thing. It's a good thing. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not our thing. We're not here to make money. We're a nonprofit. We're here to help polish trade compliance professionals. That's it. And help you figure out your career path.
Yeah, and I like that you said about, you know, that they feel like you know, the weight of the company or the shipments are on their shoulders, but also for other reasons other than their license. You know, I recently we had also had some shows where like supply chain security, right, and labor, forced labor, and you know, you're making sure that people are getting paid fairly. You're making sure that some dangerous bomb or something doesn't come in through your shipment because you are securing your supply chain and stuff like that. So it really is a big thing, you know, and people do realize it, and it's really neat, you know, that now administrators and top level management are recognizing that, and not just, like you said, not just, I don't know if that's what you were making reference to, but not just considering you an insurance policy to the company. You know, what you need, you get it when you need it. But you know, in this case, you need it all the time. You know, because your business fully depends on it.
There's no doubt in today's world, there are some pretty heavy issues going on, and then the regulations and legislation that you know that you have to deal with and all that. But let's just back up. It's like coming back to compliance folks that some have gotten thrust into the departments. They don't have a clue on what they're doing. They're having to learn. They're drinking from the fire hose. To those that are taking over a department and establishing a compliance area and all that, the thing that I would tell you is ICPA is an organization, like I said, is that I think you mentioned it. You may have already said it. Maybe you said it before we started recording, but it's focused on the development of the compliance professional. There's not a scenario here where you're trying to promote and doing a lobbying effort. There's other great organizations that's their niche, is to affect regulatory or legislative change. ICPA is for the individual. That's one thing. The other is I would highly, highly recommend people, first off, it's inexpensive. So I'm going to let you, I'm going to tee this up to where you can talk about, the membership and the cost. But as we're going through, to our listeners, I want you to listen to this. If you're not a member of ICPA, why not? You really ought to look at this and take note of it. That's one thing. The other is, I'm going to say, if you're an executive with a company, if you are a small business owner, if you are in middle management, you should also give serious thought is not only becoming a member, but making sure your staff are involved. But you need to look at it from a standpoint, especially from the C-suite. Folks, there are people that you would be able to have the conversation on. Is like, what questions should you be asking of your subordinate staff in this realm? Well, you're going to be able to get that in some of these conferences. If not, call me and I will help give you some guidance. But on that, here's the thing is that, first off, ICPA is a network of compliance-related folks, your service providers, your compliance-related importers, your exporters, your whatever, that you're not alone. So everybody feels ostracized or by themselves or whatever. So with that, how can somebody, Elisabeth, look at membership, and why, from your perspective, is it, what's the benefits and what's it cost and all that kind of stuff?
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Okay. So first and foremost, it's free for the first year, like 365 days. And I'm not talking about like free when you sign up for, your Couch to 5K app, where it's going to auto renew, like we don't take any money. We don't take your credit card information. It's literally free, transparent, fully transparent. Just try us. And I think if you do that, right, and you go into the resource library, so I've been told, and Andy says this even in one of our videos, and so does Jim Irvin. Jim Irvin describes it like this, and Jim Irvin's got a really good radio voice, not like a Southern Texas thing like me necessarily, but I can hear him in my head. It's so beautiful what he says. He's like, imagine being at your desk and you run into an issue that you just can't solve. Then you can jump on the library resource, or the Q&A. Like, so we have this Q&A process too, where you can ask the membership. And here's a funny thing, because people have said to me before, well, why don't you just have a message board? Okay, well, trade compliance people that have been in it for a minute, they understand that you cannot get on a message board and say, hey guys, I work for Nike, and like there's these like disclosure laws, right? And you're going to get in trouble. So we have to actually manage this Q&A system. And so we have people that volunteer to take the questions, and then we return answers. We ask the membership, literally lawyers, directors, people who've been in this, for 20 years. We ask them your question. And then that same week, I believe it's questions on Monday and answers on Thursday. I probably messed that all up. I'm making them crazy right now with not getting it right. But bottom line, your answer is going to be answered within that same week. And so there's over 3,000 members, or we're right under 3,000, I think, and one in Iceland. So shout out to that person in Iceland. Every year I see you. I see you on the map. And when you were having earthquakes, I was worried about you. So we do this heat map and we see where everybody comes from. The largest group of members are from Chicago. So, hey, Chicago, we see you. But it is literally all over the world. We had a huge influx of European membership this year. And it's exactly what you said, Andy. It is created for that network. That's the whole purpose, is we just want a place where you can feel valued, where you can feel seen, where you can feel heard, and make those lasting relationships, where you don't ever know what door you're going to open by connecting with these people. You may be, in an entry level position today. And from what I've seen, you could be a director in 3 years in the right, in the right environment, if you just put your head down and do the work. So, you meet great people I think about Bonnie. Look how much Bonnie's grown. Bonnie Budiak. What Bonnie Kirsch, she was formerly known as, right? But look at what she's accomplished. It's incredible. Jamie Adams. All these people that are like family to us, that, and you get to know them, right? You get to know that Jamie has a beautiful voice and he sings, and you can be part of the ICPA choir. Why? Why do we have a choir?
I think your mother said it really well. Ann Lister, she says that, when there's a conference, especially the big one in March, but then there are regional conferences like the fall one, and there's other conferences around the world. ICPA conferences is like a family reunion that you want to go to. So you get to see each other.
Yes, that's true.
Rather than like, oh no, how soon can we get out of here? It is fantastic. It's great people, great times. And all of that. And I will not go into detail on what it means in defining great times. So I was like, nope.
It is a hometown feel. Take your tie off, put your polo shirt on, come have fun with us. Because I believe, and I have studied now, so I have some research to back it up.
You have some credentials.
I do, and it makes a difference, because you really do learn better in a more relaxed environment. And so you'll know that, like, our annual has a theme every year. Our fall is a Western theme. This next year in San Diego, we're wild about
Do I like that?
About compliance. And because it's the San Diego Zoo, everybody knows it, right? And so we try to really make it a fun time, a memorable time, but it's jam-packed with learning for every level, truly. And I will say, I'm going to address this, because I know there's 10% of you out there that have been coming for 20 years, and I hear you, and I see you, and I value you, okay? And you keep telling me over and over again, well, there's just not enough, deep dives. There's not enough high-level content. And so I've been thinking about this, Andy, for a long time. And Andy, if you think I'm wrong with my theory, you correct me. So I feel like there's like 3 levels of trade compliance individuals, right? There's the people that, like you said, they got thrown into it. They stayed too late at work on a Tuesday. Now they're the trade compliance guy, and I stole that from a European. I think it was Jens, maybe Kolya, and I apologize, but they said it best. And it's a really good analogy. They stayed too late at work. Now they're trade compliance, right? And so, so they're the beginning. That's beginner, right? Intermediate is, okay, I'm not learning anymore. I'm doing the job. And those people, they fall in love with ICPA. They come for over a decade and they're diehards. And the only reason they're coming to me at lunch and telling me in great detail that we don't have enough advanced, topics is that they love our brand and they want it to be what they can come to. I mean, I spent a lot of time ruminating on this. So here's the challenge, guys. You're now in the advanced stage where you should be teaching. Okay. Like, right, Andy? Like, if you've come so far that you've outgrown the majority of our sessions, then why are you not leading one? I mean, that's my challenge to you. You may think you're a bad speaker. You may be nervous, but I'm here to tell you, you are a product expert. You've been doing this for over a decade. Then you know what you're doing. And even, Jamie Adams does that really simple session called Good, Better, Best, and Bestest about record keeping. It's just what he's done for 20 years. Here's my take on it. And people love it. They want to know and learn from people that are down the road. And so, challenge issued. We'll see who accepts,
No, and it's true, Elisabeth. I was going to say, because it's true. When I first came, I was invited because a lot of my customers were attending ICPA and they wanted to see a Mexico session. And holy smokes, was I scared. I was just like, there's no way I'm coming on here with people who, I guess prior disclosure, I was also in my late 20s when this happened. And I was like, these people know a lot. They're just going to tear me apart. No, they even helped me, they helped me, not get through the session, but come up with more content. I literally threw away the script, and we went and just started talking about other stuff. It was awesome, and that happened, like I said, very easily, but leading up to it, you're right. When you don't know that you're a speaker and you suddenly do become a good speaker and an instructor, because you are teaching people things that you think nobody might be interested in, but yes, it's amazing. So
here's the thing in taking Elisabeth's challenge and maybe giving you something to think about is if you were to talk to your 21-year-old self and knowing that you're going to get into the import-export compliance, what is it you would say? What would be the top 3 things that you would say you need to focus on 1, 2, and 3? And all of that. And the thing that is most interesting that I've seen that when Lalo and I have asked that question, and I give credit to Lalo to coming up with that we've challenged our guests at times, is they've usually come back saying, don't get so freaked out on when a situation hits. It's like, learn how to respond, not react to situations. 2, was a lot of times learn how to deal with people more than the knowledge. But then 3 is get your education and all of that.
I love that. That really, when you said that, I got goosebumps because, I just could picture somebody sitting at their desk furiously writing this down. Right. And I really want to speak to that lady and that man or whoever. I just said it was a lady. I'm going to tell you because in my head it was, right? Because we're so type A. So I was like, it's some woman. There is some, and you sat down and Andy said that, and you actually wrote something on a piece of paper. So now there's a double challenge, right? And I always reward people who accept my challenges. I'm not going to tell you how or why, but you will get a reward. Listen, you need to email me with that because I'm telling you right now, another thing I've heard that drives me banana crackers is, well, it's always the same speakers. Well, they're the only ones applying for the job. You know what I mean? Like, you have to understand that if they're good, first of all, yes, we'll reuse them. You're going to see Michelle Schultz as much as I can get her on the docket, right? Because she has a way about her, right?
And her ratings come back so high. That's the other thing. People love it.
Through the roof, right? Like she is so well received. And so here's the thing though. The lawyers and the sponsors will speak all day long. They will flood our inbox with, hey, I got a topic. And we want them there. We love them. But it is very rare. There's a small percentage of actual practitioners that will send out, that they want to speak. And that is the core of what we want.
To our listeners, again, if you will make comment on this, I'm going to throw something out because, we have the listen to the Legal Eagles, right? And it's a great session. And, I love listening to that. One of the things that may give some thought to is putting together, I always think that it would be great. Let's have actual importers and exporters that are like, that put them on the same kind of thing, like a panelist. And if nobody else will do it, I'll be more than happy to moderate that. But it's like, walking them through. Here's why most people are apprehensive about getting up and speak. They're by themselves. They're up there. They don't feel like they're adequate as an expert. But yet, if you look at the format where Simply Trade is doing with Lalo and myself, we bring people on, and what happens? It's just an informal discussion, like we're having a cup of coffee or something, right? That's what we need to do in one of your conferences to give thought to. And if the folks there's more there, I'm sure there's others that would be happy to moderate that as well. But it was just like taking the edge off and say, okay, tell me when you first got in there, I bet you were scared to death to take over as director of a compliance area, and you're supposed to have all the answers and everybody's looking at you. What do you do? How do you handle that? Let's talk through that. And what about, record keeping? Have you, everybody talks about record keeping. Have you ever tested it? And if so, how are you going to do it? I want to pull up purchase orders from, 2 years ago and find the entries that they're associated with that. How do I do that? And let people talk through those kinds of things. It would be phenomenal, I think. People love actual firsthand stories of what they went through. And that's what we
I love it. And I wrote it down. I like taking notes all the time. I love that. And I that's what I would like to encourage is that there's so many people I sat down with at lunch or over a meal, and you talk to them, and I'm looking at them going, I call it the Bonnie effect, just because she's the first person I ever saw. I know, but it's like there's this sparkle in their eye when they talk about trade compliance. Like, I don't get that sparkle. I get that sparkle when I talk about people, right? Like being at the event and creating the event and making good content and knowing that I missed a shot, but Andy practicing till I get my free throw right? Like that's what we're basketball people. Yep. So,
and one of the things that I wanted to also add is so then we have a bunch of new and younger people that are coming to the conferences, and then the other thing is that we have people who are not in the industry. Well, okay, let me backtrack. They're in the industry, but they're not compliance people. They're like the marketing people or the sales people. They don't do the compliance. And so I decided I bring in a very good example of that. So we have Anik. I don't know if you remember her, Elisabeth.
I do,
you met her?
Of course. Yes, I love her. We have a similar energy. We're high energy people.
Yes. Well, I am in Germany right now, but I'm so glad Lalo just messaged me and she said, actually we're doing this episode today and maybe you want to come on. I'm like, okay, I am kind of not ready, but I can come on. That'll be fun. Yes, I'm so excited, and I'm glad you guys brought that up. And I heard a little bit of the conversation, and one of the things that I know you guys brought up is talking about trade, like coffee table talk, that kind of talk, rather than being very technical and businessy. And actually, that's what I've been liking, and I think that's why I got more into it. It was because of the podcast, because before it was very technical and very, all of that. And then I think at the conference too, I got to talk to a lot of people that, didn't talk so, technical about it. They were easier to talk to, and you can understand things, and you're like, you feel welcomed, and you didn't feel like you don't know anything. We can't talk to you. They will talk to you, which is great. And I think that's a great way to introduce people in any industry, right? So I'm glad you brought me on, and I'm still learning. I listen to the podcast here and there. So it's
me
been
too,
great.
girl.
But
I'm still learning too.
Here's something that I would like, Anik. It's that you attended obviously the first conference, which we were down in Dallas, wasn't it?
In Dallas,
was the
yes,
fall conference.
Yeah.
In Grapevine.
And
Grapevine,
it's like, as you were there and obviously, you know, going through, talk and tell your experience. When you were saying, it's like, here are all these trade people are, it probably scared you at first because all these folks, you know something and you have not a clue on it. And yet at the same time, you were just absolutely fantastic and people were loving you. I got to tell you, it was great. It was so refreshing to see. But I think very quickly you realized how good the ICPA conference was. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I'm a people person, so I don't mind talking to people. That's not the issue for me. It's a little bit scary when you don't know anything about a certain topic, such as trade. I would think I know a little bit now. Well, I do have a question. I came in with a question. So, you know, now that I'm in Germany, so I have been thinking, and I know you do conferences all around the world. So my question is, what are the differences do you see at conferences all around the world? Because I know you're in, you know, Dallas, and then you have Netherlands, and then I don't know if you go to China or whatnot, but all the places, like, do you see a common big difference in like how people think and how people talk about trade? Or
Oh, it is a great question. I'm so glad you brought this up too, because this was my first. So we went to Amsterdam a few months ago, and this was my first conference overseas without my mom. So there was this, like, I knew that Europeans, especially Germans, okay, have a very, because I was married to a third generation German, and and I studied a lot of the culture, and Jens is he's kind of our, what we call our session leader for that conference. And he's phenomenal. Jens Nilsson, love him. And I've interacted with him for the last few years, and I understand there's this dry sense of humor, right? Like where, I mean, I come in the room mouth first. I mean, that's what I used to get in trouble for in school, right? But now it's like my superpower because it's disarming in a way, right? Like I just come in and I love you immediately. I love all of you. And I was a little apprehensive about that. And so I told John Grayston, our lawyer, and Jens, I was like, you guys do most of the speaking. I want to represent ICPA, which is a very, like we said, Andy, right? Family and homey. But I was a little apprehensive because I didn't know how this crowd was going to take it. And I just went in there and I was just, once I started talking, I couldn't control it. Andy, you know how it is. Like you can't control it. You're like, you know, they wind you up and there you go. And the things just come out of your mouth. And I was like, I totally messed that up because there's just faces out there. Like they're very professional. You know, they're sitting there and they're all ready to learn. And by day 2, it was the same. Here's the thing, and I'm going to get goosebumps. Trade compliance professionals around the globe are feeling the exact same way because there was this thing that resonated with them. They loved it. They're like, oh my gosh, we just love you. We just thank you for welcoming us and making us feel like we could take it down a notch and really just make a friend. Because that's always my challenge. Like here recently, I'm like, you got to make 3 friends before you leave. You know, who's going to make 3 friends? I'm going to make 3 friends because it's the heart of what we do, right? Networking. And so I'm here to tell you, I don't care what country you're in. Somebody halfway around the world is in the same position as you and feeling the same pressures and feeling the same strain. To your point, supply chain.
Listen, with that, the cultures are a little different. Things are a bit more reserved at times, but it still comes down to developing the relationships. And once those are done, it's like, wow, I got to tell you, I have my network is truly global. I've got contacts all over the world and it's so fantastic. I love it because I've had the great opportunity to circle this globe, meeting different people.
Well, and I think that one of the things we do at the annual, we will spread it eventually, I think, this part, but we do we do the fun run. Charter Brokerage sponsors our fun run. So we get up on a Tuesday morning, and I'm not going to tell you about all that fun that goes on, Andy. So we get up at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. We put on our running shoes. We run off all that
I've
fun.
only made one of those.
You can walk and puke if you need to, but the money goes to charity, I mean, and then I also just want to real quick give a shout out to my mom for coming up with the idea of kids camp, my mom was single when I was growing up. She was doing the same thing we did, Andy, going going back to school, working, trying to build this association with Linda. And so every year at our annual conference, Charter also sponsors that. They give us some money so we can afford to take people's kids. Maybe there's a better way to phrase that. Chaperone people's children to fun activities while they're at the conference. We're sending out emails.
So we've established that ICPA would be, well worth it to attend and become a member and those kinds of things.
Okay.
From your perspective, what about the conferences? What is your vision for the conferences now over the next, couple of years or whatever? And I know we've got some, a fall conference, I think in San Antonio. Where are they going to go? What talk about, that kind of stuff, especially if a company's looking at maybe considering to become a vendor, a exhibitor, and those kinds of things.
Yeah. So thank you. Yes, I love this. So yes, we have our fall conference coming up in September. We have our Asia Pacific in Portland in October. And then the big show, the main event, is going to be in March in San Diego next year. And so when it comes to our conferences, I think what you're going to get out of it, no matter which one of it is like you said, you're going to make a connection with someone that will be important to your future. I hands down, unless you're sitting in a corner not talking to anybody, but guess who's going to come eat lunch with you? You know what I mean? Like, you want to be left alone? It's not going to happen at one of our conferences, because that is a challenge that we issue to our our board of directors. Hey, if you find someone sitting alone, go get them. I mean, don't come if you want to be isolated. Go to a webinar, okay? Because you will meet people. They will welcome you. We will do silly things, but you will learn. No matter what level you're on. But here's what I do know. I mean, I will stalk you. I will find you. You will be my friend, even if just for 3 days. But I know for a fact there are some competitors that I've seen, friends in the industry of ours that are touting themselves as the most valuable conference. Man, I'm not seeing it, because I'm gonna tee it up here, Andy. This one's gonna knock it right out of the park. As far as I know, and I challenge all my competitors to if I'm wrong, let me know. But all of our conferences right now are hybrid, and this is something that's not even going on in the meeting industry where I'm going to get degrees. Right? Hybrid is scary for meeting planners. Not me. No, we've been doing it since COVID.
When you hear the term hybrid, when it comes to this, is you have the in-person attendance, then you also have the online. It's streaming, interactive, and all that. It's not like it's recorded and then you just see it later. It's literally you are online.
Plus, the other added benefit is that on demand for 90 days.
All right, Lalo, how do you want to wrap this up for this session here, my friend?
Well, I mean, I think we should just mention and just bring up again the upcoming 3 events that are coming up for ICPA. There's the fall conference coming up in San Antonio, September 10th through the 13th. And that is currently taking, obviously, registrations. And then there's the October conference. It's the Asia Pacific Conference in Portland, Oregon. That's in October 22nd through the 24th. And then finally, the big one in San Diego, the one that we all like to go to, which is March 17th through the 20th. And that one's going to be that's the annual conference. So we have those 3 coming up.
Right. Now, that registration doesn't open until October to the public. It will open a month earlier for ICPA members. So here's your little Simply Trade tip. For listening to this podcast, I would go get your free membership today so that you're a free member before how many days does August have? 31, August 31st at midnight, right? So that when November 1st rolls around, you get part of that early invite, because
you mean October 1st.
October 1st.
Wait, well, October 1st, it opens to the public. November 4th, it's going to open for members.
No, you're going the wrong way. September 1st. I'm sorry.
Right. So you want to, you want to get in, you want to get your free member. Just go get your free membership today. Go do it. It's free. It's free. And you don't even have to put in your credit card. Remember, it's just really free.
But why wouldn't you do it if it's free? Why would not anyone do it?
I don't know.
Wild.
I don't.
Well,
and all that. So this is just, I see it as a great enhancement to somebody's ability to expand their knowledge, increase their skills, and definitely increase their network. Folks, we just appreciate you. Obviously, we've talked quite a bit about ICPA. It's a great organization, and would highly suggest and recommend that not only you check out one of the conferences, check out the membership. It would be, if I'm not mistaken, we'll have the contact information and all that in our show notes, but I believe it's icpainc.org. And with that, y'all have a great day.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show or would like to sponsor Simply Trade or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at simplytradepod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.